This is a Musclecat Media production.
Baseball expats. It's the week of July 7th, 8th. We're getting this episode a little late for you today. It's Eric Ballner and it's Andrew Reynolds Spoon joining us a little later on. Eric is a full spiritual entity of a man in every aspect of the word. I'm talking about myself in third person. The Blue Jays are on an 8-game winning streak. They're probably never going to lose a game again. They're 3.5 games up in first place. The Cardinals are sliding down the standings. Everything is coming up, Eric, right now. And if I'm a full energetic being of a man, I'm joined by a shell of a human on the other end of the line who's sitting out literally, like, I know this podcast isn't going to have visuals to it, but you are sitting with a painting behind you, good sir. Andrew Reynolds from Ireland, all of a sudden? That's a curveball thrown at you. What's up, man?
Hey, man. Yeah, I think this should just be a recurring theme on the show, right? Where I just randomly pop up in crazy spots all over the world. We are currently in a place called Curracloe, which is in County Wexford. Actually, a buddy of ours from Australia. This is why being an expat is incredible, right? There's a buddy of ours from Australia who legitimately lived around the corner from us when we lived in Sydney. He's from here, and every winter in Australia, they come back here for summer in Wexford, and they rent this exact same house. So Claire and I, me and my wife, who were in New York previously, we're going to come over to Ireland to visit her family for a couple of weeks. We wanted a little serenity after our trip to the U.S. So, look, we were invited to come here for a couple of days. And, look, it's the first time I've been to County Wexford, and it is incredible. So, look, there's, benefits for being an expat, not just in the sporting world.
Well, wait, how do you spell the town when you're in?
Curracloe. It is Curracloe.
What? That seems like a weird way to spell it. I'm going to have to look this up. No, I've got a good buddy of mine. He actually listens to the podcast. He's a fan. I'm hoping maybe he'll listen to this one because he's from near where you are. I think he's in Ireland somewhere. That's all close, right?
Yeah, we're obviously going to do a little bit of a road trip while we're here, and we were just looking at it, before, and it's hilarious how close everything is. It's like, well, can we do that drive in a day? It's like, well, of course you can. You can do any drive in a day in Ireland.
Just ask people if they know a guy named Brian and leave it at that.
Sure.
Then you can play the power with no other information. And then mention Guelph. And twins. That's it.
Sure.
Just leave that nugget of
information. We'll find the one person on the planet.
You don't know who this guy is at all.
We'll find the one person on the planet who can connect all of those dots for you.
But you're nowhere near a baseball field, right? Like, I'm looking at this, and there is actually, let me pull up the photo you texted me earlier, and I can describe it and paint this like one of your French girls. No, it's like you've looking at. Is that an ocean? Is that the ocean you're looking at?
That is indeed.
Or is that a lake?
That is indeed the ocean.
Not the ocean I'm looking at. I literally live 100 meters from the ocean. Different ocean. There's a boat in the background. There's sweeping plains, rolling hills of green. And it is probably the sunniest day Ireland has ever seen. There is a big stream of white clouds along the horizon and some dark-looking clouds more at the top third of this. But there's a little bit of sunlight breaking through. And it's gray, but it could be grayer. So that's a sunny day in Ireland.
Yeah, it's just different shades of gray, right? Like that essentially is what the weather is like. Although yesterday when we arrived, it was quite nice here. But I will say that the cooler weather, it's 17 degrees Celsius, so sort of in the 60s for those who still operate on the Fahrenheit scale. So it is a much cooler day today, but definitely pleasant.
Still operate on the Fahrenheit scale. Like, Americans got to stop making Fahrenheit a thing. There's literally one country that operates on this. So, but that country is pretty good at baseball, and you were at a lot of baseball games or tuned into the demise of the St. Louis Cardinals. You've been conveniently away. That one time the Cardinals got swept by the Blue Jays. you weren't around. And then the Cardinals got swept by the Pittsburgh Pirates and didn't score a run, and you weren't around. But you have been watching baseball. Any new perspectives have floated across that brain of yours?
Well, I think I've committed to the demise not only of the St. Louis Cardinals, but also the New York Yankees, right? Because we were in New York. Claire and I went to the 4th of July game at Citi Field, which was an incredible ballpark, right? I haven't really spoken to many people prior to that trip about Citi Field. I do want to talk about it a little bit. But it does seem as though I go to the U.S. and I'm the kiss of death. Like when we arrived early in June, I think it was 6 or 7 days I was there before the Cardinals won a game because they went on sort of a little mini slide. They came back, they swept Cleveland, and then all of a sudden they went to Pittsburgh and didn't score a run. Also got shut out, or nearly got shut out by the Cubs in the first game of that series. It took their 4th-string catcher in Joel Pozo to hit a home run in the 8th inning on Saturday to even get St. Louis a win this weekend. So, yeah, I mean, look, it's a team that's got a lot of injuries at the moment. They still haven't figured out their starting pitching. I don't know what they're going to do with Miles Mikolas and Eric Fetty. Like, it's clear that those two guys probably shouldn't still be in the bullpen or in the starting rotation. And I'm staunch advocates of both Miles Mikolas and Eric Fetty, but it just seems as though the Cardinals are going to have to go in a different direction. I think probably Michael McGreevy potentially is going to find himself with a steady dose of starts in the rotation. If the Cardinals can stay close, I mean, look, they're still at time of recording half a game out in the wild card. The NL wild card race is insane, so I don't know really how all in you want to go with a team that was expecting to be rebuilding when the wild card, there might be 6 teams vying for those 3 spots potentially. So I don't know how hard they want to go. I don't think that they'll be crazy sellers at the deadline, but if they are going to buy, they're going to have to find some starting pitching. I guess, if somebody gets DFA'd and they can pick somebody up on waivers, or if they do make a deal. I don't think that John Mozeliak in his final year of doing that role is going to give away any major future pieces for some sort of starter that may get the Cardinals into a wild card. So, yeah, I mean, the next sort of 2-3 weeks in Birdland is going to be pretty interesting, and even more so interesting because your Jays are starting to pull away, and it looks like I might be on the hook for a case of steam whistle, which is probably the thing that I'm the most concerned about.
Well, this is crazy. Like, take a look at the standings around the AL right now and the NL. Dude, the NL, okay, first off, the statement that the wild card race is crazy is a good thing. Like, it should be crazy, but it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, right? Like, the MLB designed it this way. They added more teams in the wild card race so that everybody would be in it. And every year for the last 3 or 4 years, everybody's been a buyer at the deadline. But, okay, in the NL, if I told you at the beginning of the years that the Phillies and the Mets would be would have over 50 games a week before the All-Star break, over 50 wins, and they'd be separated by 1 win battling for the top of the NL East, you wouldn't be surprised, right? You'd be like, yep, cool. If I told you the Cubs had a 3.5 game lead over the Brewers in the Central, where you'd be like, yeah, okay, that stacks up. They're supposed to be good. Brewers are always around the mark. You'd be like, whatever. Then you go to the Dodgers, I'd tell you, man, they've won 56 games. They have a 6-game lead. Like, they're in the lead. You'd be like, man, this is so boring and predictable. Like, and that's what it is. It's predictable. Like, I know we didn't necessarily predict it. I tried to get cute with it, but that was probably the common sense leaders. The American League is wild, dude. Like, the Astros are 19 games above 500 and have a 6.5 game lead. Like, I didn't think they would be good. Most people thought they would be just okay. Nobody thought they would be one of the best teams in the league. The Detroit Tigers have a 14-game lead for first place. 14-game lead. And the Toronto Blue Jays have opened up a 3.5-game lead over the Yankees in the AL East. Like, the Tigers in first isn't surprising, but the 14-game lead sure is surprising. So it's just like, it's a bit unpredictable with the division leaders in the American League, whereas in the National League, it's like, yeah, kind of that's gone according to script.
Yeah, I think so. And look, whenever I think you selected the Houston Astros to come last in that division. I think was your prediction. But I mean that division seemed like it was going to be wide open. It's always easier to go back and in hindsight say that some of the things that I thought the Boston Red Sox potentially could win the AL East. But it seems to happen this way more times than not, where one division sort of goes to plan and the other is kind of off the rails a little bit. There's still plenty of time. I mean, we're talking about the AL East in the context of the Blue Jays leading because the Yankees are on such a skid. Do we think the Yankees are going to continue to skid that way? I don't know, because we know potentially they could be buyers at the deadline. I mean, they have obvious woes with their pitching. I mean, their starting pitching and their bullpen in New York are both atrocious
Decimated.
at the moment. That's the reason why they continue on this skid. Do we think the Blue Jays are going to win the AL East? I think that you would like for them to. I chose them to win the American League East at the beginning of the season, and I certainly think they're capable of doing so. They're playing just as good a baseball as anybody in the major leagues. Detroit, I think we probably thought would be there. I don't think we thought they would be nearly as good as what they are. I mean, Minnesota went on that sort of mid-season run or early season run, maybe at the quarter mark of the season.
Minnesota are terrible, dude.
Yeah, and we thought,
bad.
right, maybe Minnesota with a weird sort of hodgepodge of teams led by Byron Buxton all of a sudden was going to make some sort of run and be, in that race. And, clearly not. But I do think what Houston is doing in the AL West probably is the surprise of the season so far for me, as far as teams that are leading their divisions.
Some other weird notes for you just around the MLB in general before I get into what I wanted to talk about, which was the world. The Pittsburgh Pirates, I alluded to that. They had one of the weirdest weeks, but it's the most Pittsburgh Pirate week you could imagine. They swept a series where they didn't allow a run in 3 games, and then they got swept in a series where they didn't score a run immediately following. Incredible work from the Pittsburgh Pirates. Like, they just keep finding ways. 6-game win streak, beat the Cardinals, scoring runs, not allowing any, and then they get swept and don't score a run.
I saw a stat on the Pirates.
That is the
maybe this
ever.
morning whenever I woke up and was just sort of scrolling through some baseball news. They have the fewest earned runs allowed of any team in the National League, and they find themselves 15 games back in their division. It's wild to think about how good their pitching staff actually has been, how inconsistent their offense has been. It's sort of it's the inverse of the issue that the Yankees are having at the moment. I mean, let's not compare the Pirates and the Yankees, but for how good the Pittsburgh starting rotation has been, it's not getting any sort of love at all because they're not getting any run support. And it was sort of like I mean, I saw it firsthand when they played St. Louis. It was like that team was just annoyingly scrappy. And, with Paul Skeens centering that rotation, and I mean, they've still got a lot of young guys potentially that they could go to and call up in Pittsburgh as well. So we're starting, I think, to see the fruits of, long lines of labor. I mean, we were talking about the Pirates earlier this year. Like, are they going to be a doormat for the next decade? And it's funny how long a month or so is in a baseball season, because now it's like, okay, right, we can kind of see where their vision is because of this starting rotation. But boy, oh boy, do they need some bats.
And speaking of doormats, the other note I have, Nats fire their manager and general manager. Washington Nationals are in all sorts right now, despite having some good players on that team. Like, Spoon notes it. Like, there's a few good all-stars on that team and caliber players, but yeah, they're in struggle town right now, and it's interesting that they fire their general manager. Well, their manager makes sense, but GM right before the draft and the trade deadline. So given whoever's in, I don't know what they're going to do, if it's going to be a transitional thing. Interesting timing on that. Other fun notes, last week there was a day where it was Thursday, there was 19 games in a day because of rain delays and separations, whatever. The most amount of MLB day games in a day since like 1970 something, and the most in the modern era. That was a fun one. And my last one, when you think of the Toronto Blue Jays and the recent, not since the World Series, you probably think of the 2015 and 16 teams, right?
Yeah, I mean, those have been the best teams sort of a decade in Toronto.
Like, they were good. They went to ALCSs. This Toronto Blue Jays team has a better record through 90 games than both of those teams.
Interesting.
So interesting to note kind of the trajectory that they could be on and caught by surprise. But that's really all I had for you in the MLB world.
It's funny how difficult it's been for me. I mean, and look, I've been on holiday, let's be honest. How difficult it's been for me to keep up with all of the things that are happening throughout baseball. It's actually easier to do it whenever I'm in Australia. Is that strange? It's strange that the games at 8 a.m., 9 a.m. are much easier to follow and easier to watch than whenever they're happening at 7 o'clock at night for various and obvious reasons. Listeners, take for that what you want.
The setup's incredible in Australia. Like, you wake up and baseball's on at like 8:30 a.m. my time, and 11:30 a.m. is the next time slot.
And
like,
it goes all
great.
day.
Like, you get, and it goes all day. And I'm lucky enough that I work in baseball and I work for, get to watch it, but I get to kind of be tuned into it. But I also get to keep an eye on some friends that I've met in Australia all around the world. So I've actually had a big focus of like world baseball over the last couple weeks. And one of our guests later on this week, Marcus Solbach, he's going to come on and talk about it. This dude won the MVP of the ABL, pitched AAA for the Dodgers, played for Germany. But I was kind of tuning into what was going on. Have you ever followed Prague Baseball Week before?
I have not, but whenever we spoke to Michael Clare and we were talking about Czech Republic, we had that conversation about how on this trip, I was hoping that we could make it to Prague. We're not going to. We're already in our third major different area, but it is something that I want to get to at some point in life.
And I only came across it just after kind of COVID. I became good friends with a guy who's from America. He is now living in Adelaide. His name's Austin Gallagher. We can drop his name, but he played in Prague Baseball Week because they enter some different teams in it. Normally it's like the national teams of Europe, right? Like the Austrian this year was Austria, Germany, Italy, Lithuania, Poland, Slovakia, Switzerland, and Czechia. And it's the national team that play in that. But last year, for instance, they had the Japanese under-23 national team play in it and the Taiwanese under-23 national team in preparation for the under-23 World Cup, which you got to call. The year before that, and most years, they have like an all-star team of guys from baseball jobs overseas that would play in the competition. So it's just like dudes that are like American, Canadian, Venezuelan, whatever. They're imports playing in local clubs. They form like an import all-star team and they compete against these other national teams. In the past, they've had an all Australian import team before competing it. But yeah, basically it's a national team. It's like a European Cup in it. And this year was great because it was purely European. And that's why I liked following it. There was no gimmicky teams, not that they aren't important, but it was Austria, Germany, Italy, Lithuania, Poland, Slovakia, Switzerland, and Czechia. And the side events looked awesome. They have a blind baseball tournament. There were a bunch of different charitable fundraisers. They had skills tournaments. They had home run derbies. And it was a party. Like, it was a festivity around there for the players, the fans, the people, the everything. Because it's not a World Cup. You can relax, but still play for your country's pride. And it was an awesome tournament, man. It was in two groups. You end up having over 5 days. The top two from each group kind of play each other in the semifinals, and then they move on to the gold medal game. And yeah, Germany defeated Czechia, Czech Republic, the hosts of Prague Baseball Week, 2-1. They scored 1 run in the 8th and 1 run in the 9th. Simon Ballmer hit a game-winning home run in the top of the 9th inning. Christian Pedrell pitched 7 innings. Marcus Solbach, who's going to come on the pod, he pitched 8 innings, allowing 1 hit in his start to help Czechia get there. Austria won the bronze from nowhere, beating Italy 12-5. Like, it was, I'm just letting our good people know, dude, this tournament is awesome, man. I would love to get to go to it, cover it, broadcast it, do something, but probably more just go as a fan and drink a few beers, dude. It was awesome. That's my Prague Baseball Week rant for you.
Well, it sounds kind of like they are trying to encapsulate what Unkbalvik used to be in the Netherlands, because from my understanding, Unkbalvik back in the day, I mean, Australia used to send basically a national team to Unkbalvik in the Netherlands as a chance just for the national team basically to get reps, because, I mean, back then, even when there was no Premier 12, you were waiting 4 years for a World Baseball Classic or a World Baseball Classic qualifier. But I think for various reasons, that Unkbalvik tournament has changed quite a bit. I think the rules have changed from it. I know now there's WBSC points up for grabs. I think there's some sort of age restriction. So it doesn't really have this open Euro Cup feel to it anymore like it potentially used to. So it sounds like to me that what they're doing in Prague for this, albeit festival of baseball, not only with the baseball, but everything that's happening around it, is to say, well, maybe there's a gap in that market now because Unkbalvik has sort of changed to make a bit more of a competitive type of pathway to somewhere else, where it sounds like in Prague Week, it's about the baseball, it's about the festivities, and it's about guys being able to represent their country, albeit in a slightly different way. But I mean, make no mistake. I mean, we know how big the Euros are in soccer and football, right? So these countries don't necessarily want to lose to each other if it's in tiddlywinks. So it being in baseball and
no,
I mean,
they don't at all.
Yeah, and I mean, these European countries that are starting to be really on the rise. I mean, the two that you talked about being in the gold medal game in the Czechs and Germany. I mean, those are two really good baseball countries that have grown immensely in the last sort of 10 years. So it's no surprise that they were sort of there when the whips were cracking at the end.
The crowd looked awesome. Obviously, there was passion involved. It wasn't like a WBSC event, but I don't think it really mattered. It looked very social at the same time, too. Basically all the European competitions stop for 5 days. There's no games on there, and everybody goes to Prague for a week, and the national teams play each other. It's effectively like an all-star competition. So all the guys that were on Germany's roster play in the German league. You took a look at Germany when they were trying to qualify for the World Baseball Classic, and same with Czechia when they try to qualify. Czechia didn't bring in dudes that are playing in Japan right now, which there's a guy playing in Japan. Donald Lutz for Germany, the former big leaguer, didn't fly over and play for Germany. It was guys from the local leagues that were representing each other. I would love to see something like that in Australia, just with like the states, to be honest. Like, how cool would it be to do like a state of origin, old Claxton Shield style for a week, where it's just like, all right, everybody from South Australia play Queensland, like that kind of thing. It looked very wholesome. We're going to talk to Marcus Solbach a little later on this week. He's the star for Germany. He was the He was the pitcher of the tournament, MVP of the tournament. He also has won an MVP in Australia, in Germany, pitched AAA for the Dodgers. But we're going to talk to him specifically about, tell me about Prague Baseball Week, man. I'm excited for that conversation. You want more international stuff?
Give it to me.
I've also been watching a little bit of Korean baseball, man. I'm kind of getting into it. But we talked to Cohen Wynn, good chat, if you want to go back and listen to that one. But there's another Australian now in the KBO, and Lockie Wells, who also won an MVP in the ABL and a Pitcher of the Year award. Lachlan Wells pitched for WBC in 2017, probably going to be on the roster, I would assume. I mean, I'm not the coach or anything, but you'd think Lachlan Wells is going to be on Australians WBC roster when it comes to March next year. But he's had 3 starts now in Korea with the Kiwoom Heroes. His first start was just basically an opener. He pitched a couple innings, allowed a run, but it was just, it was basically to stretch him out. Start 2, 5 innings, 2 earned runs. But he came up against my guy, Hyunjin Ryu, head to head on Saturday, and it was and Wells outdueled him. He pitched 6 innings, allowed 4 or 5 hits, struck out a couple, only allowed 2 runs, and left with the lead, and had outdueled Hyunjin Ryu. So it's kind of cool to see these guys that basically put up identical numbers that he did in Korea to Australia. Australia was a little bit better, but kind of this year, kind of similar numbers. Cohen Wynn as well. We've seen what he's capable of. It kind of brought me back, as I was thinking, to a comment that you made, is like, are we kind of underselling how good the Australian Baseball League is in terms of the caliber? Like, if it's just the popularity in Australia, right? Like, people don't come to the games. It's not that popular here, but it's respected globally. Are Australians just as good as Koreans? Like, if you gave everybody in the ABL the same salary as people in the KBO and then said you are going to play 140 games, would Australia be better than Korea?
I mean, this is a conversation that I've had since I moved to Australia back in 2013, is, yes, I think it's a difficult question to answer, because Australians, when they grow up, I mean, there's an origin story of Australians playing baseball when they're young, right? When they grow up, they just don't get the reps that players get in other countries. Korea, Japan, the United States, a lot of the Central and South American countries, Mexico, those types of countries that are really good, you're prominent baseball countries. Australians don't get the reps at young ages that these players do, so they bloom later. So we're getting to see guys like Cohen Wynn and Lachlan Wells and those types of guys that weren't necessarily on the radar. I mean, Lachlan obviously went over and pitched in minor league baseball, but probably wasn't at his best. And by the time he gets cut and doesn't go back to the U.S., I mean, I think he's had some opportunities potentially, but wanted to stay in Australia and make some personal decisions over professional. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But by doing that and betting on himself and backing himself, and the Korean baseball organization creating this new rule, it's going to say, hey, we've identified that there's a lot of these Australians that are late bloomers potentially that we would like to have over here, because not only is it going to strengthen the relationship between those two baseball countries, but oh, by the way, it's going to make that competition better because it allows that additional import spot, particularly for pitching. It'll be interesting to see sort of, 5 years from now, how many actual position players from Australia go over to play in Korea. But I mean, look, you're right. There's been 2 of them this year, and they both have absolutely held their own. I know Cohen sort of got knocked around a little bit in some of his later starts, but there's no doubt that they can hang. And this is conversations that we've been having for ages, that it's like if Australian players at a young age were given the opportunity to have as many reps, and I think it's a cultural thing in Australia as well, too, where kids play 1,000 different sports, and maybe when they're 18, 19, they go, okay, right, baseball is the one I'm going to pick, maybe because a team signs me or I get to go to a JUCO or something else. So it's just culturally, it's just a little bit different in Australia with baseball. And I think whenever guys really start to hone their craft, maybe starting to do that in their late teens as opposed to, their adolescent years, that's why you start to see these guys maybe in their late 20s and in some instances, 30 and beyond really start to come into their own. It's because they finally have had enough reps. It's the 10,000 hour rule, right? They finally had that opportunity to actually say, right, now I know what I'm doing. I wish I was in this spot, 6-7 years ago, and I had a little bit of youth on my side. But I mean, it's kind of the plight and the hero's journey that the Australian baseball player, takes in a lot of instances.
I was actually talking to a coach in Australia about baseball development in general. And, I think Australia outperforms the resources that they have. Like the crew and people at Baseball Australia and at the States and at grassroots, like they get the absolute most they can out of the system. And it's awesome. However, the what we were talking about is he was referencing a Kobe Bryant kind of quote about it. And you've probably heard the quote. I'm just going to summarize basically the mentality. I'm not going to quote Kobe word for word, but basically it came from Kobe talking about how he got so good at basketball, right? And he basically broke it down that said, all right, if I'm going to the gym and training for basketball and I go 2 times a week, let's say 5 a.m. to 8 a.m., I go to the gym, I train, I work on my shot, whatever, body. Then I have some breakfast, go about my day, come back to the gym at 5 p.m. and go 5 to 8 p.m. again. I've now done 2 sessions a day for 6 hours, and I've done that for 7 days a week, right? So that's 14 sessions of 3 hours a week. Cool. Now, what happens if when I'm a professional, I go and do another 2-hour session, or let's call it 3-hour session over lunch between 11 and 2, right? You do that over a week. All of a sudden, I've had 21 training sessions and you've had 14 training sessions over a week. Let's extrapolate that over a year. Now, over a course of 365 days, multiply that by 7, all of a sudden you're up to, more than 2,100 training sessions a week. Now you multiply that by 5 years. Over a 5-year period, it is mathematically impossible when we're both all of a sudden in our mid-20s or whatever it is for you to catch me, because I have put in quite literally, maybe the math works out to be whatever it is, 10,000 more hours at the gym. You cannot catch me. And it's working on your craft. It's not just like, oh, I'm going on a program to get stronger. It's those repetitive skills things, just like baseball. And that kind of mindset has been in a couple of players that this guy has coached, basically being like, I need to get in the gym, and I don't mean the actual gym necessarily. It could just be in the cages, taking reps, whatever it is. The same old's true in baseball, in any sport, right? Like if you put in the work and you put in the reps, and if you find those little 1%ers in your days, those are going to add up. And that's very much what needs to happen in Australia for you to get good compared to what you are when you're 16. And you got to wonder if some of these guys, how athletic they are, were in Australia and just were in a system where reps were built in and they weren't playing 1 junior baseball game a week, but they were playing 5 junior baseball games a week, what they would be like. But I kind of loved that Kobe approach into basketball. It's the most cliche thing ever to be like Kobe with this, whatever. But it's a great point and it's a great story. I love that mindset of, yeah, you put in 1 extra training session a day, that's 7 more in a week, that's 365 more training sessions in a year, and over 5 years, that's more than 1,500 more times And at that point, I'm way better than you, and you're not going to catch me.
Yeah. And I think giving kids, I mean, just to bring it back to sort of the origin of this conversation, being Australian baseball, I think giving kids more opportunities to see that there are more pathways that they can end up somewhere, i.e. a country that plays baseball. I mean, it's not the national sport of Korea, as we learned, but it is the most popular sport in the country. So if, cut to 5-10 years from now, there's a dozen Australians playing in the KBO with good contracts, high salaries, English-speaking broadcasts in prime time in Australia, all of a sudden that's just another avenue and another option that players can start to take that doesn't exist. And then that means, right, maybe there is that extra 5, 10, 15% of players that commit themselves to baseball, then overcommit like you're talking about, and things just start to compound. I mean, it's a lot of what we've seen with the Czechs, right? It's the same sort of thing. They just didn't have a lot of baseball to play 15, 20 years ago. And now they're finding all these different competitions. They're gathering kids that have these backgrounds, bringing them over, infiltrating basically their training programs with a lot of these kids that have Czech backgrounds and making them fall in love with that baseball program, and then sort of growing it from within that way. So, look, I think international baseball is in as good a spot as it's ever been in. And I think the catalyst of this and why we're talking about it is this rule that Korea has put in that has allowed for these Australians to go over. It'll allow for only more Australians to sort of play in that league. And I really think that if it works the way that the KBO is hoping it will, I think we might see some other leagues around the world, and hopefully more leagues in Asia sort of see PBL and maybe even the NPB start to do the same thing, because I think it would do wonders selfishly for Australian baseball.
If you want to go back and listen, if you're listening now to our last podcast before this one, Spoon and I went through each of the MVP candidates, the Cy Young candidates, and tried to find some roughies, like who are you looking at that's not the odds-on favorite that could win? And we came back to, it was like these Asian baseball players that are finding their feet all of a sudden in the MLB. And it's like they've won major awards in Japan with these numbers, and they're coming now to MLB and they're putting up almost better numbers. Like Yamamoto's heating up, right? Like he's a bit of a dark horse if he can get hot. So Hae-Sung Kim is all of a sudden, like, if he starts getting regular playing time, he's already hitting over 300, close to 350. All of a sudden, look out. And this dude is like a career 330 hitter in Korea, and he's in his mid-20s. So yeah, it'll be interesting to watch. I'm pretty keen. But yeah, that's what I've been watching, a little bit of Korean ball, mainly around our guy Lockie Wells right now. I'm sure he'd jump on the pod when his injury replacement contract comes to an end. But yeah, I mean, it's been fun watching some different baseball around the world. I love watching Soup TV as well. You can watch that free around the world on the app Soup TV, SOOP. And just like the way the broadcasts are typical, like, it's nothing too crazy, but like all the other content around it is another world, man. It's another world. Soup TV. And there's a lot of people that are on this. Get on it.
Well, it's like anytime you watch either be it a KBO, there's some birds that want to interrupt our podcast behind me. Remember, I am outside. Anytime you watch a game in Asian League, be it KBO, CPBL, or NPB, they do such a good job of like making you understand what the environment is, and then you actually go over to that environment. I mean, we talked about this ad nauseum with various people, but I do love that about those broadcasts. And I am heading to Taiwan. I'm taking the strangest route around the earth from Australia to the U.S. to Ireland and then to Taiwan to call the Under-12 Baseball World Cup, which I know we'll sort of talk about a little bit more in the lead up to that tournament whenever it gets going in August. But man, that is one of my favorite baseball environments.
You mean July? That's 2 weeks from now. July 25th.
Yeah, so we'll talk about it next week. But that is one of my all-time favorite, like Premier 12s. I mean, I've had the opportunity to call World Baseball Classic qualifiers, Premier 12s, Australian baseball, minor league baseball, Home Run Derby X. I've been very fortunate to be able to do a lot of things, but the Under-12 World Cup is one of my favorite broadcasting experiences because it is built, the stadium is built specifically for that tournament. It seats 15,000 people. It is a major league type stadium that is built to the dimensions of a 12-year-old field. And having it in Taiwan and Chinese Taipei being the perennial favorites every time that tournament happens makes it an atmosphere unlike any other. And that kind of brings the conversation around full circle, right? Because those kids have the opportunity to aspire to that when they're 8. When they're 8, they can be like, look, in 4 years, that could be me. It's not this, oh, you can do this when you grow up sort of a thing. Because that country gets around it, right? It's the supporting base. It's not just the people involved in actually making the sport what it is, the people that are running training sessions and the volunteers and this, that, and the other. It's the general baseball watching public that makes it so good. And really kind of urges those kids in those types of countries to have those opportunities. I mean, you talk about Koshen, sort of the same thing in Japan. I'm sure there's something similar in Korea as well. And I mean, that's just there's so many layers to this conversation. And when you look at those countries, it's like, right, those kids have a chance to be superstars by the time they're, preteens.
I think we need to get somebody probably on to talk about the Japanese baseball week, like the high school baseball week, like you're alluding to, that it is
like 8,000
next level, right?
Play, dusk till dawn for 10 days straight.
Well, that was my final note before we wrap things up, was in the world of women's baseball. Tryouts are now announced for August to October for the Women's Baseball Professional League, and the draft. The 150 players will be drafted in October. So that's going to be kind of great timing. I like that they do that kind of towards the end of the World Series. On another Australian note, Claire O'Sullivan and Elodie O'Sullivan, two sisters, are going to play in the Japanese All-Women's Club Cup, which is like you can think of it as your FA Cup for women's baseball. It's a knockout tournament that happens with all the best women's team from company teams across Japan. And they say that environment's awesome too. So there's plenty of interesting baseball, whether it be under 12 World Cup coming up, the Women's Club World Cup, the Women's Draft, league going on in Korea right now, Prague Baseball Week. There's a lot of cool baseball stuff in the world, and that's kind of the focus. I think, I'd love to make sure reference of this. We can hold each other accountable to that over the next couple of weeks on this pod.
Yeah, I think so, and especially because we're coming into sort of World Cup season as well. I think there'll be a natural pivot. I mean, we are in the dog days of summer in Major League Baseball. I think the MLB season has just been so damn interesting that it's been hard to pivot away from it. But yeah, with an under 12 World Cup coming up, and then U18s that'll be in Okinawa, the first time that they've hosted really a major tournament in Okinawa. There'll be plenty of talking points along the international
tournament. They've hosted those 80,000 million teams in Okinawa before. They can handle. Right. Okay. They can handle it.
Right. So their first World Cup competition, but definitely. Yeah. I mean, they host spring training for loads of Asian clubs as well. So I'm really looking forward to going to Okinawa as well.
Okinawa for sure is just like 12 teams. That's it. Like 6 games a day. Really? That's what you're throwing at us?
They'll be able to do it in their sleep.
That's it. They have like I don't know. They don't need anybody. Like they literally will just be in cruise control. No, that's putting them down. They are going to put their heart and soul into it. But my point is they can handle a lot more load and do it at an extremely high level than what the World Cup will be in terms of an operational aspect. Obviously, you're dealing with international teams, translators, the other aspect there. But in terms of actual getting baseball on the field and being able to host an event and have the infrastructure and capacity for it, yeah, they set. And it's in a blue zone as well, which is exciting.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that probably comes into the reason why they elected to have it there. Obviously, they bid for it. But yeah, just for historical reasons as well, getting the chance to visit a place like Okinawa, I think will be incredible. I mean, the baseball will be at the fore, but I'm really looking forward to just sort of traveling around and talking to people while we're there, just to sort of get a sense of the history of that island, from a local's perspective. So this is what makes international baseball so great, right?
When you go, can you please send me photos of you with like a lot of old men?
Sure. Sure.
It's the highest concentration of centurions on planet Earth in Okinawa.
Well, I will try and drink from the fountain of youth whenever I'm there.
Aged over. No, it's not a fountain of youth, man. It's a, how do I word this? It's a sweet potato of, I don't know, sweet life. That's what a secret is there's a rare sweet potato there and it's purple. Enjoy it. Eat it for me and become old.
I'll let you know how I go. Maybe I'll just take photos of purple sweet potatoes, and that'll be that.
All right, we're falling off the rails now. Should we go to Spoon and get it? Tell him how to. Dude, Spoon is so hot right now. He's got like 4 or 5 in a row, and that's just the tips he's given on the pod. His Twitter's going off as well. Like, dude, this dude is scorching at the moment. So I'm pretty keen to hear what Spoon has for me, because he's gonna have to make me some money after my first Avalanche failed. So I'm sure Spoon and I will digest that as well.
RIP to the Avalanche. And my friend, it has been wonderful to see your face. I know that I've been absent the last couple of weeks traveling around the world, but good to see your face and always good to talk baseball, my friend.
All right, let's go make some money with Spoon. Good chatting to Rolsey. Spoonie's doing well. He's doing well in Ireland, rest assured. But it's just you and me bringing it home for some picks again. So, rest assured, you're in good hands. You're in better hands with you than you are with Spoon. How was your weekend before we get to our bit of a pick recap?
Weekend was good. Weekend was quiet, which was needed. I elected not to fly to Brisbane to watch my team lose. So that was one of the first times I've made a good Saturday night decision in a while. Other than that, it was just filled with watching baseball, football, sort of anything else with the ball as well. Good fun.
Well, let's get to my downfalls first. The Avalanche streak is over. We're still up in a profit for the year by quite a few units. I'll have that numbers for you, but we're down 7 after doubling down. We went Friday 1, and Saturday 2, and then Sunday 4 on the LA Angels to beat the Toronto Blue Jays, who I am fading hard right now. And they were all by 1 run, 2 in extra innings. It was a tough one. The concept was there and right, but this Jays team just keeps winning games. Had they pulled that off, the Angels won on Sunday, we would have profited 3 3/4 units, which would have been a nice little weekend. Instead, we go the other way, and my profits have been eaten into in one foul swoop. That's the risk with the Avalanche. You don't want to lose 2, especially not 2 in a row. So now I'm in a scuffle. I'm staying away from an Avalanche in my pick this week's, by the way. But my big takeaway from that is the Blue Jays screwed my Avalanche. They've won 8 games in a row. Dude, this Jays team might actually be legit. I still have a tough time believing it, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's crazy is the bats to come back still, right? Like Varsho, I think, and Santander have both been on the IL. That they're like 2 premium, power hitters that are going to sort of slot right into that outfield. But yeah, I mean, the way that guys like Barger and is it Lucas has kind of picked up a lot of the slack for the Jays has been really impressive. That's what makes it look sustainable to me, is that it's not like, Vladdy's had a 20 home run month and that's carried them. It's kind of like contributions 1 to 9. And I still think it's one of the best 1, 2, 3 sort of pitching rotations in baseball, which is all you need in a
Is Lauer in those 3?
I didn't have him. I had Bassett, Barrios, and the Gas Man. But yeah, I mean, you can't knock what Lauer's doing. I guess I question the sample size, right? Whereas like those other 3 guys I just mentioned, they've been doing it for a while. And they've got the stuff that I think you get 6 innings from in a playoff game, which is so important.
Dude, they've won their record through 90 games is better than what it was in those 15, 16 teams. I told you I sent you that tweet from Jared Carabas who said like, hey, everybody remembers how good the Jays are from that era in 15, 16, but the Jays have a better record at this point in the season at the same timeline than they did then. It's weird. It's kind of unexpected. I mean, it shouldn't be totally unexpected, right? Because this team was literally like odds on. This core of players with this pitching staff and this middle of the lineup with Vladdy and Bo were quite literally like odds on World Series favorites at times, which was probably overblown and overhyped. I get that. But the point is they were favored to do a lot of things. They make the playoffs a few years in a row. They have a down year last year. Like all the data is showing that last year was an aberration and we shouldn't be surprised by this. I'm just surprised that they're in the lead by so much right now.
Yeah, I was chatting to a mutual friend of ours on, I won't name drop him, but he's a pastor, I believe, or a minister or something like that at baseball on the weekend. And we're just kind of talking. It feels like a cloud was lifted when Vladdy signed that extension, right? Like it just seemed like that just gelled. Like they're having so much fun. They've got the jacket. And I know they've always kind of had that, but it felt like a bit more of a fragmented team last year and this year when they were scuffling right at the start. But now it just, to quote the great Torey Lavello, a connected team is a dangerous team, and the Blue Jays look like a connected team.
It's kind of crazy. Like if you take a look at the leaders in the AL right now, all of them have kind of a cool stories for different reason. One, the Astros have a 6.5 game lead over the Mariners, and they're a cool story because a lot of people, including myself, kind of thought this would be a down year. But the Astros just keep churning out the same system, and they're just as good, if not better, than they have been in other years, 19 games over 500. The Detroit Tigers have a 14-game lead in the AL Central, dude. Yeah. 14 games. 14. The Tigers. Like, this is diabolical. So, and it's not so much I'm surprised the Tigers are this good. It's that everybody else is this bad. So that's a cool story. And the Jays out of nowhere all of a sudden have a 3.5 game lead. So every division leader has a cool story. Like Phillies and Mets, they're separated by a game with some distance in the East. Nobody's shocked at that. The Cubs have a narrow lead over the Brewers in the National League Central. Nobody's shocked at that. And the LA Dodgers have a 6-game league in the West. Nobody's shocked at that. It's just so different in the AL.
The Brewers are a funny one. They're kind of like an Astros in the same sense, where I keep thinking like this year it's going to stop, right? Like they never go as far as the Astros. Like the Astros are kind of, to win anything, you've had to go through the Astros in the American League for 6, 7, 8 years now. The Brewers are like, to get anywhere, you've got to beat them in the first round. Like they're that team that there was some absurd stat. Every team for ages that won a World Series did so by beating the Brewers. The team that eliminated the Brewers was the World Series winner. But you look at how they always sort of retool a little bit, the Brewers, and they're always just still in that hunt, similar to what the Astros do.
Dude, before we move on, anyone that you felt was robbed of an all-star berth when the all-star team was named?
I thought Joe Ryan was really stiff for the Twins, but he was a product of, because every team has to have one starter. The White Sox got their guy in, and that kind of like filled out the rotation. Was it Burke or someone like that? I'm not. There's a White Sox starter who got in because he was the only guy kind of close enough to be considered an all-star. And that was probably the spot that Joe Ryan should have had statistically, because he's had a superb season. So I felt like he was a little bit stiff. I thought CJ Abrams from my Nationals was a sneaky chance as well, but I'm not sure I'd say it was a robbery. I was just kind of hoping to see it.
A lot of people are crying out saying that Springer should be in the All-Star game over J-Rod, at least in my circles, right? Like I see a lot of Toronto media, and I've been trying to down talk people with this, right? Like I get the OPSs are different. Like if you take a look at the OPS, Springer recency bias was obviously crazy in that week versus the New York Yankees. He's got an OPS of close to 900. J-Rod's under 700 at like 685. But for me, I say you got to keep looking at the WAR, the defensive WAR, and everything that J-Rod's bringing. I understand you can make that case, but take a look at the WAR that J-Rod has compared to George Springer. It's like double. And I know that WAR is not the be-all, end-all, but I think it's more important than to just look at the last 2 weeks, say that Springer has a better average in OPS. Like there's a lot more that J-Rod brings. And I'm the Jays fan in here. Have I been talking down people unjustly, or what's your call?
Yeah, I just had a quick look. I was wondering if J-Rod was in purely because he was Seattle's only rep, but they've got Munoz out of the bullpen and Brian Wu as one of the starters as well. So that's not the case. And yeah, I think you've got a legitimate sort of case there for sure. It does seem like, I don't know if it's just because they're Canada's team or what, but it seems like the Blue Jays are kind of always underrepresented by the other players, right? Because the players vote for the reserves and all of that kind of stuff. The fans do the starters. And it's something I've noticed like a lot in recent years. Obviously, Kirk got in as a reserve this year.
As he should have. He's unreal, man.
That wasn't up for debate. He's batting over 300, right?
Dude, he would have been voted in as the starter if it weren't for, obviously, there's kind of a guy, Cal.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I've been watching a little bit of Seattle baseball recently, and J-Rod's numbers were surprisingly poor. Like he's having the same season as like a Lourdes Gurriel is having for us, and like I don't consider him one of our I say we as an Arizona Diamondbacks fan, I wouldn't consider him like one of the top 5 players for the D-backs. I think J-Rod, he gets that brand recognition and that name recognition, and that seems to probably boost him a little bit. And maybe that goes against Springer a little bit too, just because, anyone who was sort of tarnished with that Astros team, that seems to have followed different players to different extents. I don't know if there's a little bit of that to it. But yeah, I mean, you break it down and look at the numbers, and I think you've got a right to feel aggrieved.
3.4 WAR though is 3.4 WAR, so I'm okay with Julio getting in, right? Like that's like it must
be a lot of defensive WAR. I should haven't looked at the breakdown.
It is a lot of defensive WAR. You got to look at the full picture. Yeah. But I mean, you could feel justified for feeling ripped off. But maybe Joe Adele has a better case than even over Springer. He's having a pretty good year too. So we'll wrap that part up with it. And let's Spoon, let's do a couple picks right now. And then I know you want to play a little bit of a game, which I just don't know much about. So let's keep the surprise for the very end. We can all wait with bated breath. A couple of picks. I'm not going Avalanche. I've got 2 picks. I'm playing over-unders this week. So, and maybe a win in there just to spoil what mine are. Do you want to go first or me go first?
Look, you went first last week and it worked for me. I picked up a couple, so I'm very superstitious.
All right, let's keep it rolling.
You can hit lead off again.
So I got 2, and I'm looking at a couple of games with just some small kind of plays here. One is the Mets versus Orioles game tomorrow. I'm going under the 10. The last I checked, this might have moved down to 9.5 since last check, because 10 seems like a high number, but it was at 10 runs. So I was going to go under 10 runs in the Mets to win. And I think it's inflated because Brandon Young is starting for the O's. Now, he's got a 7.02 ERA and 4 MLB starts, but he's actually a pretty good prospect, man. And he's got a 2.70 ERA and nearly 10 strikeouts per 9 innings in the minors. So I think now that he's going to get more comfortable, you're going to see those starts get a little bit better. So it's a little bit make or break. Clay Holmes is the guy going or scheduled to go for the Mets. And he's been soft contact in a friendly ballpark for it, only allowing 1 home run per 9 innings. I kind of like it when you have like an Orioles lineup that's kind of struggling. They're 21st in the league in batting. All you need is a 6-3 victory and guys to be mediocre on that line. I think the Mets are better, so I'm going Mets win into the under 10. Although this was me checking those markets like 2 hours ago through work and jumping it on. Is that unreasonable right now when I made these notes?
It's looking like you can get 9.5 under at $2. So yeah, you'd probably be able to find the 10 flat somewhere out there for sure.
And you park that with the Mets win, and you increase that value a little bit too.
Yeah, I think I'm looking. One thing I always look at when I see a line that looks a little bit bigger than I would have thought as well is the weather forecast, right? Because sometimes you can have these games at Wrigley and it's like, what? Like 11.5 is the line, and you check and it's just like basically any
bam box.
Just like, just leave. But it's looking like it's going to be wet and rainy at Oriole Park tomorrow at Camden Yards, and winds blowing left to right, which will definitely knock some balls down. So I think if you're getting 10 in those conditions, absolutely.
The play is because of Brandon Young. That's why the markets are that high, right? Like he could blow up because he's blown up a lot so far. Then the game's over. Orioles are just kind of chasing their tail and the thing blows out. Like that's the risk with this. But I think Brandon Young is a better pitcher than what his numbers suggest, but he's still young. So who knows? The other one, I'm just playing a straight under. Jays and the White Sox, the line was at 8.5, and I still like that. I think Chris Bassett, he's got a 4.32 ERA, but the field has kind of let him down. So if you look at his fielding independent, it's at 3.69. He still strikes out a batter per inning. The White Sox lineup, Bassett gives up some home runs. The White Sox don't hit home runs. So I kind of like the Jays, who aren't, they don't score a lot of runs on the road. I think their road scoring is less than 4 runs per game. The Jays aren't scoring a lot of runs in this streak. They're kind of egging it out. I know they won 8-4 today. So I'm going 2 plays tomorrow. I just think the Jays White Sox is going to be a low scoring one tomorrow because of the 2 pitchers going, because of Bassett's numbers and the way the Jays have been playing ball. I just kind of like the 4-3, 3-2, 5-3 kind of market. That's just my hunch on the under with some stats to back it up.
I like it. I think, the White Sox have just struggled to score consistently all year. And if you're trying to hit a line like that and they're not contributing, the Jays would just have to, stay as hot as they have. I guess this is your way of kind of fading them without fading them, right?
Yeah, well, 7-1 Jays gets the job done, which is possible. But also, if the Jays are going to lose, I kind of feel like they're going to lose like 3-2, 3-1. It's just like they couldn't get the bats going. So
if you get into a shootout, you'll win because you've got the firepower for sure. So this could be the end of that win streak, or they get a gritty one behind Bassett.
Yeah, so that's what I'm going. Jays, White Sox under 8.5. Mets and Orioles. I do like the straight up underplay on the 9.5 that it's at now, but I'm going to couple that 9.5 plus the Mets win. And this is kind of a fun time to gamble now because now you get like good teams versus bad teams, and you're going into the All-Star break, and some of these bad teams are just like, man, get me to the break, bro. Like, get me out of here. So it's there's some markets you can capitalize on. What do you got for me?
I'm gonna kind of do what you're doing, and I haven't done this before, but I'm gonna pick both of my plays in tomorrow's games because I couldn't split which one I wanted, and obviously got the benefit of all these prop markets sort of being up there now. To kick things off, it's actually the solo episode I recorded last week. I was keen on Brian Bayo to pick up some strikeouts for the Red Sox. What ended up happening is the Wednesday game entered a rain delay. It was Red Sox Reds, and then it was after like 2 innings, so they had to reschedule it to the next day. And then Bayo kind of got like the start that wasn't a start in the resumed game, the first half of a doubleheader. So basically, he kind of didn't technically start the game. He came out of the bullpen. Therefore, there were no bets that stood on that play. He tomorrow is starting at home against the Rockies, and I think you can really get value in the player performance double market. For Bayo to get 6 strikeouts and the win, which, it is the Rockies. I watched that game today, actually, the series opener. And Boston's offense is quite fun. Like, they've got just so many guys just base running, base stealing, plus speed. I don't know if you saw a quick side note. Someone hit the ladder, like the top of the ladder on the Green Monster in like the first pitch of the Red Sox offense. And all of the commentators were saying, we've literally never seen this before. Like, no one's hit the ladder. But back to Bayo, he's been brilliant. Honestly, he had that slow start coming back from injury, but he's got an ERA under 3.5, and the strikeout numbers are sort of starting to pick up a little bit. I'm not going to count the recent start where he kind of technically came out of the bullpen, technically didn't, but he's had starts with 8 against the Yankees, 6 against the Giants. That tells me that the Rockies on the road tomorrow is well and truly in range. And if you're getting $2.90 for 6 in the win, in what looks like a pretty solid sort of pitching mismatch, I'm happy to play that way. Second guy is maybe the most exciting player in baseball for me, and it is not actually Hunter Brown, believe it or not. Eury Perez has come back and slowly started to show why he is the most exciting pitching prospect, I think. He's the youngest player in all of the big leagues. He's still only 22 years old, and he had that whole season off last year with injury, and now he's starting to come back and just dominate. I don't know if you saw his line against the Twins. He had 6 innings, 1 hit, 1 walk, no earned run, 7 strikeouts, 80 pitches. Like,
he's nasty, man. He's efficient too. He's quick.
He's disgusting. Yeah, he throws strikes, and that 80 pitch count wasn't a limit. It was just that like he'd pitched 6 innings and he'd never gone to 5 in any of the starts so far this year. He's gone as high as 93 pitches in the start before against Arizona. So I'm not concerned about there being like a really low or short sort of outing there. I am tempted, and I probably will play personally the player performance doubles because I think the Fish are really hot right now, and they're another team that's been fun to watch. They've won a lot of games over the last sort of month. But given I've got a player performance double with the Red Sox one, I'm just going to take this as a straight line. You can get $1.95 for over 5.5 strikeouts for Eury Perez against the Reds, a team that strike out a lot. That line's available pretty much everywhere, but when I had a look, the best price was PointsBet. And my thinking is, if he goes out and does well, but the Fish don't give him run support, I'll sort of break even if I don't pick up the Bayo play. Or if both guys that I like do their thing, hopefully I'll make it 4 or 5 in a row or something like that, and we'll kind of stay hot.
So Perez is only 5.5 as the line?
Yeah, against a Reds team.
I would have thought 6.5 minimum.
Yeah, after the last start, what he did to the Twins, I 100% agree. And I mean, the Reds are 24th in baseball on strikeout rate, and the numbers actually, they're just as bad at home as they are on the road. And there's just guys there that just go up hacking all the time, right? Like Dela Cruz is just going to be probably mismatched if Eury Perez has got his off-speed stuff working. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy to get even money at 5.5.
So we got 2 over-under or run line totals basically on the over-under, and 2. You could do 2 player performance doubles if you want, but basically you're looking at strikeout totals. One is coupled with a win, just like one of mine is coupled with a win. The other's just the straight over-under, and yours is the over-under too. So it's nice and clean. All right, Spoon, we got about 6 minutes left. It's enough time to set a lineup. What do you want to do?
All right, so we're going to, if this segment works, what we're going to do is I'll pick a random thematic, and with sort of limited time to prepare anything, we just try to fill the lineup the best we can based on, you've got more knowledge of probably American League players, and I've got a bit more knowledge of National League players. So I'm hoping between us we can debate and ultimately fill a lineup. So the thought experiment I had today to kick things off is, what's the best lineup, both sort of offensively and defensively, where everyone's in their natural position if all players are switch hitters? I think we can start super easily, right, with the catchers, obviously Cal Raleigh. Like that's just...
Yeah, but the answer is different than what it would have been at the beginning of the year. If you asked me this question, I would have said Adley for sure, right? But I mean, Cal is for sure penciled in at catcher. Let me write. I got to make notes as we go here. All right, we're gonna go catcher Cal Raleigh. That's unanimous, right?
Yeah.
Who's at first base? I can only really think of one guy off the top of my head, which would be Carlos Santana.
Yeah, I think there aren't a heap. Trying to.
This is us without Googling things, by the way, folks.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, if we're not here to info dump, this is an on the fly.
This is off the top of our head. Like, if we were here and actually prepared and Googling around, we would have actually probably had a more thought out team. This is like name a team right now. Carlos Santana was the first guy that popped up in my mind.
I think it's got to be him unless we can think of someone else. Michael Busch for the Cubs, I don't think about switch hit. And even then it's probably, bang, bang. So many teams, because it's a power position, so many teams just platoon, right? Like, you just have a lefty and a righty. I can't actually think of many examples. So let's put Carlos Santana, and if something pops up along the way, we'll circle back.
All right. Second base, I feel like this is going to be unanimous as well.
For
the first guy, I think. It has to be.
Has to be, yeah.
Who else? But even he's just maybe the second base best. He's maybe the best second baseman in the game right now. You could easily make that debate. So it's like remove switch hitter. He's probably there, right? Like that's the first guy. Shortstop.
I can get us started. I don't know if it's the answer, but Geraldo Perdomo, obviously a fellow infielder for the D-backs, bats switchy as well.
Isn't Lindor a switch hitter?
Lindor, yeah, it's got to be Lindor, doesn't it?
Yeah, just let me double check that. Yeah, he's a switch hitter. Yeah. I'm not going crazy. So I would say Lindor has to be.
That's your National League starting infield, Ketel Marte and Lindor.
This is crazy. This is a good team with the guy that might break the home run record at catching.
Yeah. I mean,
Carlos Santana.
Santana's going to look around and be like, these guys are brilliant. What am I doing here? Third base, J-Ram, right? Easy.
Has to be J-Ram. J-Ram is the first one I thought of for sure. Yeah. And the only other guy I thought of was Abraham Toro off the top of my mind, just because he's Canadian. So it's like, that's who I thought of first. But you're right. J-Ram has to be that guy.
Yeah. Outfielders now, we can pick 3.
Does it matter if they're left, center, or can we just go like straight outfields?
Just go 3, like all-star voting, I reckon. Just try and pick 3.
Well, there's Anthony Santander, but he hasn't really played much this year. That was the first guy just in Jay's mind that I was thinking of. And then, what's his name?
O'Neal Cruz?
Oh, yeah. Is he a switch hitter?
He's not brilliant, but let's get 3 names and then trade up if we have to.
Yeah, I like that. O'Neal Cruz. I'm gonna break our rule and just Google O'Neal Cruz switch hitter just to double check that.
I'm 90% sure that he is.
Yeah, I think you are too. Yeah, he's not.
Is he lefty?
No, he's just a righty.
Really?
I thought so for some reason, and like everywhere you look, it says that. There's our strike 1. There's our strike 1.
Am I thinking?
I'm just trying to remember
Is it Dela Cruz? Dela Cruz is a switchy then.
I'm just trying to remember his name.
Ellie Dela Cruz is a switchy, but he's not getting in because we've got Lindor there. I got my Cruzes confused.
Yeah. Outfield all of a sudden is feeling kind of like tough for us.
Cedric Mullins was a switch hitter for years and then stopped, so he's not eligible right now. We've literally we've literally
Brian Reynolds.
Brian Reynolds is a great pick. Yeah. Trying to is it Ian Happ a switchy? No, he's lefty. I feel like we're not breaking the rule if we drop a name and then check, right? It's more if we work back.
Yeah, we can do that. It's just
Ian Happ is a switch hitter. I've got to have him in there right now.
And then Anthony Santander, is he like our left fielder in this?
Well, we're going to have to figure out a DH too, who that should be best of the rest. And at the moment, I kind of want that to be Dela Cruz because what he would bring on the bases, right? Like, he's the best stolen base guy in all of baseball.
Yeah, you could go Dela Cruz, but you could also go like an Adley or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to let's just define it that it's on 2025 form, right? Like it's as if we're picking the All-Star team, and that definitely rules Adley out. And it maybe means if we can think of two more names that Santander gets dropped to.
Yeah, I mean, so right now we have Ellie at DH and Santander. I just don't like Santander in this outfield. Why are we struggling with outfielders?
So we've got Ian Happ, we've got Brian Reynolds.
Can we go back to what's his name? Tapia. Remember him?
Oh, one of the Brewers outfielders, like one of the better ones, is a switchy. I don't think there's. I'm just trying to do it by teams. Like the Padres, no. So many teams are just like it's right or left, but then there's a couple of teams that just have like 2 or 3 switchies in a row. But they're not going to be great players, right? Or we would have.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're missing someone glaringly obvious.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of. There's a guy. Who's the guy on the Marlins that's the switch hitter?
Xavier Edwards, is it?
Xavier Edwards, but he's not. Is he an outfielder? I think he's an infielder.
Let's check. I mean, if we're discussing between
Xavier Edwards is exactly who I'm thinking of.
Yeah. Yeah,
he's having a pretty good year this year, right? Like he was good last year in the last half of the year.
He's a middle infielder. That's the problem.
God damn it.
I'm trying to
No, he is. I'm trying to look at his game logs. Yeah, he's only played second base and short this year. He played outfield a few years ago. I just pulled up his baseball reference.
I'm trying to. The Red Sox.
Jake Mangum.
Oh yeah, the Rays guy.
I'm just trying to think through doing exactly what you're doing right now, going through.
Go by team, yeah, in the divisions that you.
How about Jason Dominguez?
Yeah, I think he'd be in there right now over some of those names we just put, right?
Over Santander?
Yeah, well, given one guy's on 60-day IL, we've probably got to give it to the guy with 2 working legs.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that too. And then Dominguez can play center field as well, right? Like if you that would be because we'd probably have Happ in one of the corners, Reynolds in the other corner, and Dominguez at center field. Yeah.
All right, is that our team? Go through all the other positions. Is there anyone else you'd want at DH instead of getting Dela Cruz in? Because it basically should be runner-up of another position that just missed out, right? Like it's not going to be outfield because we can't even name 3 star-level players.
Yeah, well, our catcher is Cal Raleigh. First base, Carlos Santana. Second base, Ketel Marte. Third base is J. Ram. Shortstop, Lindor. Then center field, Dominguez. In the corners, we've got Reynolds and Happ. And then right now it's DH, Dela Cruz. My only thing would be, I guess, like, what are Abraham Toro's numbers like this year?
I mean, he's batting like 7th based on what he was doing today with a team of rookies in front of him. So I'm going to guess they're not like amazing, but I'll check. He's got 0.6 WAR. 119 OPS plus. I don't think that gets him in over Ellie, given what Ellie brings.
Yeah, and like Aussie Albies would have been the other guy, but he's struggling a little bit this year too.
He's having a slump, yeah, for sure. Yeah. The Phillies don't have one at all. I don't think they've got like a few lefties like Schwarber, Bryson, and Bryce. I don't think they have a switchy at all. Not as far as like their star players. Like I'm trying to stop and think because I hear it all the time with Ketel. It's like they go and bring a different arm out of the pen because they want to take him away from his power side, right? But you see that in other games a little bit too.
What about what's his name? Polanco, Jorge Polanco on the Mariners.
Okay,
is he a switch hitter? And what are his numbers? Let me Google.
I think he is, but he's a middle infielder, so he'd have to take the DH spot, and I don't know if he's going to get that. Yeah, 0.7 WAR, 119 OPS plus, almost the exact same as Abraham Toro.
I think we got to lock it in.
If we're locking that in, then do we get the the right to go and check what we've missed, because I think there's going to be some glaring.
Yeah, I think we could do that too. The only other one now is, do we need, what's his name? I can never pronounce his name. Urangelo Klint or whatever his name is. You know who I'm talking about?
No idea.
He is the ambidextrous pitcher.
The pitcher.
Do we need him? Do we need him as our pitcher?
By default, right?
Just the same rules.
So here are some names that we missed. Josh Bell. He's probably the better first baseman, right? He gets the edge, maybe.
I would say Josh Bell over Santana this year.
Yeah, I think so too. It's probably closer than I thought, though.
I feel like we got our headliners, though.
Willie Castro, Luis Rengifo, Brian Reynolds, Tommy Edman, maybe sneaks into like an outfield spot.
Yeah, he can do a few different things for you.
There's a few more catchers than I realized. Jonah Heim, KBO Ruiz. Yeah, okay. I don't feel like I'm not looking at any names and I'm like, all right, what have we done? Apart from maybe, Josh Bell being there.
Well, I mean, it's hard when you have J-Ram, Lindor, and Cattell as your infield. Like, what else? And Cal Raleigh as your catcher. Like, what else are you?
should have almost like started backwards.
Yeah.
Because we got off to such a good run with like 4 MVP level players just about, and then we couldn't name like anyone by the rest of it.
I'm trying to find it now, but what's crazy here is there's only, let's see. So only 58 players registered switch hitting eligibility in 2024. 20 years earlier, or 16 years earlier, in 1998, there was 111, which is interesting.
This is crazy. So MLB Tonight back in February posted an all-stars team that's all switch hitters, right? So literally exactly.
Oh, no way.
I've never seen this. This is the team. Catcher is Adley, which, as you said, would have 100% have heading into the year. First base, Carlos Santana. They put J-Ram over at second so that they could put Lindor at short, Ellie De La Cruz at third.
Yeah, that
Ozzie
can't
Albies
happen with the way. Can't happen.
Ian Happ at left field, Ketel Marte at center field, Brian Reynolds at right field, and Santander is the DH. That's like
we were pretty close.
Yeah, very similar to ours. I mean, they kind of cheated a little bit. Like J-Ram would never play second base, not over Ellie De La Cruz either. So they've kind of
whoever that social media guy was ended up looking at the outfield, being like, like we're in some trouble here. Was Santander not on the list at all?
He's DH for them on their team.
Yeah. Interesting.
So we weren't far off at all. And I mean, yeah, the Adley thing is purely a this year development only, right? Like him slumping, but also Cal Raleigh having the year he's had.
That team would win a lot of games and be an absolute nightmare to plan for.
Apparently, Kenley Jansen's a switch hitting pitcher too, so they've got him.
So he could be the closer.
Yeah.
I like it. Anyway, Spoon, I got to get running. We got to let the good people go, too. I like our team. Raleigh, Bell, Marte, Lindor, J-Ram, Dominguez, Reynolds, Happ, De La Cruz, and Urangelo Klint, or however you pronounce his name.
I think we'll have to... We'll jot down these theme teams, and by the end of the year, we'll look at who would win, like a little, a bracket with these teams.
I like this. This is the ideas guy here. Spoon, good talking to you as always. I hope you have a good week.
So, see you, brother. You too.